Questions are being raised about the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
I was literally stunned. I did not believe that in this day and time, with someone as important as a sitting justice on the Supreme Court, that you would have such a haphazard death investigation.
William Ritchie, former head of criminal investigations for the Washington, D.C. police, just wrote on Facebook, "I am stunned that no autopsy was ordered for Justice Scalia. My gut tells me there is something fishy going on in Texas." Do you really believe that there may have been foul play involved?
I'm not suggesting that there was foul play. However, do a thorough investigation.
Justice Scalia was found dead in his bed in this hotel suite at the 30,000-acre Cibolo Creek Ranch in West Texas Saturday. The ranch owner says he discovered Scalia with a pillow over his head, but a local judge pronounced him dead of natural causes without seeing the body or performing an autopsy. That has led to headlines like this in the Washington Post. Conspiracy theories swirl around the death of Antonin Scalia.
Just basic death investigation. You make sure, as the on-scene investigator, that you have covered your bases so that there will not be any questions down the road.
From going after the Supreme Court, although their plans were all out, they had maps, they had the weapons, they had everything planned. So at least it prevented something like that.
Now, were the teams that were supposed to do the actual operations against the judges, were those Americans or were they foreign?
No, they were Americans. A third would be the sovereign citizen group, and 2/3 would be FBI people, or people working with the FBI. They were going to get rid of them anyway. They actually have recordings of when they were planning on the phone with me as part of this group, and then they did not hang up the phone. They did not kill the phone, and we were listening to them talk about killing me and my wife, things like that. And another time they actually butt dialed me, and we're talking about, he was on the phone talking to various people and about their plans, about who they're going after and what they were going to do to us because we knew too much and we were outside at the time. So they could not do their plan. We got the people under surveillance. We saved them. I was given credit for saving them. They were very upset that their plans had gone. The crowd were very upset with me, especially when they came and picked me up. But it stopped it. Their plans were written out. They had maps, they had surveillance, they had quite a bit of equipment.
What was the timeline that they were hoping to do this in?
This would be right after, within the first year of Hillary Clinton's presidency. She was not supposed to lose. So this was all planned up, and it was more than just that. It was twofold. They wanted to pack the court, and take out as many as they could. Roberts was actually helping because he didn't want to be one of them, and he wanted some choice in who would be on the bench after that. He wanted to maintain some form of control, so he did provide information. But it was supposed to be done within the first year of Hillary Clinton's campaign so that they could ban firearms as well, and pack the court. So they had plenty of time to do that. That was their two main goals.
Do you believe the death of Anton Scalia was a part of this same plot, or do you know if that was a separate?
It's the same people. He was a backup plan. He was their biggest threat, being the most conservative justice. Justice Scalia, actually, I believe he found out about this, the plans. He went to the White House like a week before his death. I believe he found out what they were trying to do. When they moved away from the overall attack of where these people lived, or they would attack around the holidays when more than one justice would be in their home, things like this. And again, Roberts was providing this, but they had to take him out. He was seen as their biggest obstacle. So the same basic group that was involved were given access to the ranch where he was found. They talked about how they did it. They had a couple different options, but it was discussed prior to his death, what they intended to do, where they could possibly do it, how they could do it, who they would need. The records are there at the Cibolo Ranch. One person was brought in as, there was 3 men. One person was brought in as a temp worker. The other 2, same team, were brought in as servants from a group that was there hunting. And they discussed how it was done. that they use DIMSO, dimethyl suboxide, which is a fairly inert chemical, just goes through your skin. But if you mix it with a poison or a drug or something like that, it'll go directly in your system and overload you. I believe that's why he was found with the pillow over his face. He was struggling to breathe. He couldn't breathe. He was choking. And this particular chemical you can tailor to the person. If they have a drug problem, you can put fentanyl in it and overdose them. If they have a heart condition, they take very little to go directly in. It'd be like a direct injection into the heart. And they talk about how they did it. And Roberts is on the phone with these people discussing the successor. And he wanted a say in it because now it was only going to be one person. He wanted to pick that person. And he wanted to say in who was going to take it. And of course, there was a lot of people that were talking about Eric Holder taking it, all kinds of people. But he wanted to say in who was going to take over Justice Scalia's spot. And I don't think he got it. I mean, obviously it didn't happen because President Trump was here. But he did want it, and this was all prior to discussions and him complaining that he wasn't getting any say prior to his death, his sudden death. So it was well done.
So aside from Roberts being waiting on this, did Rosenstein or anyone outside of the White House, had they been made aware of the plans? Perhaps in Hillary's camp that you could speak about?
Well, Hillary and Obama knew about it. I mean, it was supposed to be done under her watch, her first term, so that they could pack the court. They were fully aware of it. Rod has an intense hatred of Hillary, even though he worked with her when he had to. He's not fond of Obama, really. He's only fond of himself.
Now, there is a WikiLeaks Podesta email that says this. It's dated February 9th, so about 4 days before the death of Antonin Scalia. And it's from ELMENDORF at Team Subject Matter. And it's to John Podesta. It says, I am all in. Sounds like it will be a bad night. We all need to buckle up and double down. And this was to Steve Elmendorf. And he says, didn't think wet works meant pool parties at the Vineyard. Okay, folks, you don't have to be an expert in conspiratorial, theoretical. You don't have to be an expert in CIA verbiage and lexicon to know that wet works means assassination. You know, wet works meaning there's blood involved. Didn't think wet works meant pool parties at the Vineyard. Now, why is this of interest? Well, Podesta's use of wet works implies an assassination, some people say. And the reference to pool and the Vineyard referred to Chibolo Creek Ranch, where Scalia's body was found, goes the theory. The ranch does have a pool, and it is believed that a vineyard is just down the road. I remember looking at the time of some maps, and yes, there's a vineyard and forest and stuff right down the road. So 4 days before the very interesting and perhaps shady death of Antonin Scalia, you have Podesta having emails about wet works in a vineyard where there's a pool, but they're not talking about a pool. The same Podesta who had emails, or let's just say other emails, that interestingly enough seem to have similarity when we look at Seth Rich. But we're not talking about that, but I'm just putting that in the back of your mind so you realize that this is not a one-off. This may be a pattern. And of course, that email was written just 4 days before they found Scalia dead. Oh yeah, they wanted, what was happening this time? Well, McConnell stopped it, but they really wanted Merrick Garland to be his replacement. And of course, that didn't happen, and President Trump got to nominate not one, but 3 justices. Now, I'm going to just tell you this one last thing, and you can make all the connections you want. Chelsea Clinton famously said after Scalia's death, the Democrats may finally get their gun control.
About his connection to Justice Scalia.
His death upended political traditions and caused a bitter fight in Washington. And it was all spurred by what happened on this remote, gorgeous West Texas ranch near the Mexico border. The final moments of one of the most powerful men in the country. The Cibolo Creek Ranch is no doubt one of the most beautiful places in our state. Its website, which lets the general public pay to stay on the property, shows unique views and promises excellent Texas cuisine. But on Valentine's weekend, its private guests were invited by wealthy Houstonian John Poindexter. There were about 35 people, including Justice Antonin Scalia. Poindexter, a well-known name in Houston's elite social circles, started on Wall Street. President Obama awarded him the Presidential Unit Citation in 2009 for his heroism during a Vietnam rescue. That weekend was the first time that Poindexter had invited Scalia to the ranch.
We had lunch and then embarked on a tour of the ranch.
They spent time quail hunting.
Didn't exert himself at all, had a very pleasant time. He was, of course, his usual personable self.
After dinner, Justice Scalia excused himself to his guest room, the El Presidente suite.
He was tired and wanted to have a very long night's sleep.
It was the last time anyone talked to Justice Scalia. After sunrise the next morning, the group knocked on his door with no answer. But hours later, Poindexter entered the room after concern filled his mind.
When I found him Saturday morning, was in complete repose. He was very peaceful in the bed. He had obviously passed away with no difficulty at all.
This report from the Presidio County Sheriff's Office says Poindexter called the sheriff's office twice, trying to get the U.S. Marshal's telephone number. The sheriff wrote in his report that Poindexter, quote, then stated to me that this death was way beyond my authority and should go to the feds. I then replied, it doesn't matter who it is. It was still under my jurisdiction. The sheriff ultimately gave in and gave Poindexter the marshal's telephone number. The sheriff decided to head to the ranch and only learned on the way that it was Justice Scalia who died. Within hours, news started leaking. Though a report claiming that a hearse at the ranch was a decoy, Poindexter told me that's not true. It was later that night when a van came to take Justice Scalia's body to a funeral home in El Paso. In Scalia's room, police found a briefcase and his open suitcase. There was also a breathing machine next to his bed, but it was not on or attached to Scalia.
Justice Clarence Thomas is in the hospital with an infection after experiencing flu-like symptoms. In a statement, the High Court said the 73-year-old is being treated with antibiotics at a D.C. hospital where he's been since Friday. The court also said his symptoms are getting better and that he could be released in the next couple of days.
Court saying he was admitted to a D.C. area hospital Friday evening after experiencing flu-like symptoms. He underwent tests, was diagnosed with an infection, and is being treated with intravenous antibiotics. The court saying he is expected to be released from the hospital in a day or two. At 73, Thomas is the second oldest justice and the most senior conservative. He doesn't have any known health issues and is both vaccinated and boosted for COVID. That's according to the court.
And that he would be doing the arguments remotely, but he has not. He has now missed 3 days of oral arguments. Thomas had been expected to be released from Sibley Memorial Hospital in D.C. on Tuesday after experiencing flu-like symptoms and had been diagnosed with an infection, the court said in a press release on Sunday. He first entered the hospital on Friday. Court spokeswoman Patricia McCabe declined on Wednesday to provide an update on Thomas's condition to the AP and CNN. This is according to People. McCabe likewise did not immediately respond to People's request for comment. The court said Sunday that Thomas' symptoms had been abating. Okay, so I don't want to repeat the same thing that we already got like that, but we don't have an update. And I'm looking everywhere. PBS, Supreme Court declines to give update on Justice Thomas hospitalization status.